So let's do this Vaush video, this capitalism versus socialism response to PragerU. Let's do this.
Decades after capitalism seems to have triumphed over socialism, politicians are once again arguing about the merits and drawbacks of these opposing economic systems. Why are we still having this debate? Andy Puzder, former CEO of the parent company of Hardee's and Carl's Jr., explains the misconceptions that keep the debate alive. Let's do it. Yeah, guys, look, your chat shows up on screen now, so now you'll appear in the YouTube video. Don't say the N-word.
Oh yeah, that goes for you guys as well. Please don't say the N-word.
Capitalism versus socialism. We can sum up each economic system in one line. Capitalism is based on human greed. Socialism is based on human need, right? No.
I agree. No. I was about to say no, but he did it for... Oh, cool.
Wrong.
I mean, those are really, really essentialized terms, so, I mean, there's not much I can say with that right now, but, I mean, yeah, let's keep...
So wrong. It's exactly...
I wanted to jump in on the definition and, like, give a definition to capitalism, but, like, it'd be so broad and so... I guess capitalism is just a system that recognizes individual rights and takes force out of society by instituting a monopoly on force, the government, to extract force from society and stop people from violating each other's individual rights, making it so that men can only interact voluntarily in a way that doesn't infringe on the individual rights of other people.
Backwards.
Oh.
And I'll prove it to you.
Oh.
Been on Amazon lately? Each of the thousands of products...
Oh, I fucking love Amazon. Yes, thank you. Thank you, our Lord and Savior Jeff Bezos, for delivering me all these fucking books. Look at all these fucking books that Jeff Bezos has given me. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. Jeff Bezos. Do you guys know who Jeff Bezos is? Look at that beautiful man. We fucking love you, Jeff. Thank you. Thank you for all that you do for me.
Amazon offers represents the work of people who believe they have something you want or need.
Oh yeah, I don't believe in roads. Sorry, Daniel Krause. No roads. No more roads forever.
If they're right, they prosper. If they're wrong, they don't. That's how the free market
I missed it. Hold up.
Each of the thousands of products Amazon offers represents the work of people who believe they have something you want or need. If they're right, they prosper.
I mean, that's true. That's what win-win trade is. That's what every interaction in a capitalist economy is.
If they're wrong, they don't. That's how the free market works.
What? So he's making the argument that supply-demand based economic systems are based on human need rather than greed? They're both. It's both.
Yeah, Vaush is right here. It is definitely based on both, because I want to make money. I'm greedy. I'm selfish. I want to make money. So I'm going to trade with you, and I have to provide something that you need, something that you want, so that I can make money. So, I mean, he's right that it's both, but I have a feeling I'm not going to agree with him for much longer.
People who are greedy make money off of meeting the needs of those who are needy. It's both. This means nothing. This is like a completely vacuous political take. It doesn't have any...
Completely vacuous. Good one. Good job. He's just explaining the essentials here. He's explaining the essentials of what capitalism represents. There's not much to get fucking pissed at yet.
The actual meaning, this greed versus need dichotomy, is non-existent. In reality, people who are greedy under capitalism make money, and they do it by appealing to the interests of those who need things. Easy.
Yeah, and also part of what they do, they let people know the things that they need as well. Like, a lot of the time in capitalism, like marketing is like, oh, here's something that'll improve your life. Like you have to market it to somebody. You have to tell them, oh, this is something else that you want. This is something else that will improve your life. And then the consumer has to say, is this worth $19.99 that I'll spend on this thing to buy this product? And if they think, yes, it is worth more for me to have this product than what I want to spend this other $19.99 on, what else I could buy with it, this is the best thing I could buy with that, then they do it. Then they buy that thing. And it's in their best interest because they'd rather have that than their money. They'd rather have that than the money that they spent on it. And part of it too, obviously, is the marketing. That's kind of the point that I was bringing too. Like these are the people that create sort of the things that we need, that create the things that we specifically desire to have. I just said the same thing twice. Good Lord.
It encourages people to improve their lives by satisfying the needs of others. No one starts a business.
I mean, the primary though is for themselves though. The primary is making money for themselves. They see that, oh, here's something that I can produce. Here's something that I can market to people that will improve my life, that will make me money. And that's moral. That's a morally good thing to say that I want to make money. I want to live the best life possible by producing the thing that I want to produce. There's nothing wrong with that. Selfishness is a virtue, guys. Don't forget that.
Making a thing or providing a service for themselves.
Citation fucking needed. There are plenty of businesses that start off with nothing but like fucking investment traps, where all you're really doing is paying in money in the hope that they eventually produce a product or a service which is marketable.
I mean, there's going to be irrational investments like that happens throughout history. Like people can invest in irrational things and they're punished for it because in reality, this thing is not productive. This is not something that actually appeals to the consumers. This is not actually something profitable. And it's the job of investors to invest in people that will produce something profitable, will produce something that people demand, will produce something that is valuable. That's the job of investors, and that's actually a very important role that investors play as well, because to create a business, you need capital, you need money, you need resources if you want to create a business. And these investors, these bankers, they can basically say, this is a good idea. You have a good idea, something that's going to be profitable. And because of that, I'm going to invest money in you. They can obviously make mistakes and invest a lot of money in something that isn't profitable, but they're punished for that. And it is in the best interest of the investors to invest in things that will be profitable. And that's what a capitalist system incentivizes. Now, when the government's investing in things, when the government's deciding what's good, you see a lot more problems because there's no real profit motive. They just do it because we want more green energy, so let's invest in all these green energy companies that ultimately fail most of the time, because we still need cheap, plentiful, and reliable energy. In spite of what all the talking heads that you hear say, like, oh, we don't need fossil fuels anymore. It's fossil fuels time to go. No, we still need an expansion of cheap, plentiful, and reliable energy. Fossil fuels are not being replaced anytime soon. And we can get into the global warming thing, but that's... Look, let me just say, global warming, probably real. It's probably real that certain things are going to happen with global warming. Probably real. I agree with the scientific consensus. But that is going to destroy humanity, and that we need to sacrifice fossil fuels, the most cheap, plentiful, and reliable source of energy that we've had throughout all of history, and has led to the most economic advancement and most development in human civilization in all of history. We need to sacrifice those things because the sea levels are going to rise a few meters, because the Earth's going to raise by a few degrees. What are the other talking points? But here's the thing: like all these individual things, we can solve them. We can solve them. Like insurance, you can move away from the sea if the sea levels are going to rise. That's one thing. Now obviously that takes a lot of investment, a lot of planning, a lot of things like that. It's not easy to do, but it's something that we can do. We can do all these things through capitalism. We can. I mean, there's different ways that insurance can get involved and make it so that it's more profitable for people not to live near coasts. But also New Orleans has been underwater, has been under sea level for years now, hasn't it? Hold up, let's research this. Yeah, New Orleans is under sea level, part of it. So like we can adapt when a city becomes under sea level. Like, this is something that people can adapt to. Maybe I'm mischaracterizing the whole global warming thing. And plus, this was a huge fucking tangent as well. I think we were talking about investors investing in bad companies. Yeah, let's get back to the video.
Also, this is kind of misleading, making a thing of...
Oh yeah, Roy says, don't investing in investing traps. Radical idea. For real.
Providing a service for yourself? Maybe not. But there are plenty of businesses that start up
I feel like this is too loud.
making a thing or providing a service which is oriented not so much around meeting the needs of people, but rather around exploiting the needs of people. Like, for instance...
Exploiting the needs of people. They're just providing the things that these people need. Someone needs to provide the things that people need. Someone needs to provide housing. Someone needs to provide healthcare. Someone needs to provide these things. And to say that these people are entitled to that thing, that they're entitled to the labor of others, it sounds like people aren't receiving the fruits of their labor, Vaush. I know you're not a big fan of people not receiving the fruits of their labor. Or whatever the Marxist talking point is. Maybe I'm misquoting it, but you guys know what I'm referencing. But here's the thing. Radical idea. People should get the fruits of their labor. I'm using a communist talking point intentionally here, but people should get the results of the things they produce. If you make a house for somebody, they're entitled to pay as much as you ask them to pay for it. Or if they want the house, they have to pay as much as you ask them to pay for it. Because you created the house. You're the one who created these things. You're the one who created these businesses. You're the one that created these services. So if you're selling it to somebody, they have to pay for it. It's not that complicated of a thing. You should be able to be rewarded for the things that you produce. And in as much as you choose the value of it. It's not something that society chooses the value and can societally reward you the results of the things that you want. No, you choose the value of it. You choose how much value your work is. And then if somebody wants to pay for that, if somebody agrees with you that that's the value, or that the value is more than that, they'll pay you for it.
If you go to fucking post-Hurricane Katrina, New Orleans, with a backpack full of water bottles you're selling for $12 each, sure, maybe you're meeting human needs by selling those water bottles to those impoverished fucking black kids. But is that a good thing?
Garrett,
Yes.
stop exploiting me. I cannot live without your content, so I shouldn't be expected to pay for it.
Thank you, Dan, bro. I love you. You always out here with the donations. I love you, man. You're supporting my meager lifestyle. I'm glad I'm meeting your needs, my friend. I'm glad I am meeting your needs. I am the businessman with the backpack full of water bottles, selling water bottles to poor black kids in Katrina for $12 a piece. And here's the thing. I defend price gouging. Do you know why? Because the reason that these prices are so high is because there's such a low supply of water bottles there. There's such a low supply of water there. There's such a low supply of those things there because people aren't supplying those things. So then, for people to get those things, they have to pay more for it, so that the people who need it the most, the people who are most willing to pay for these things, they'll pay the most, so that they can get those things. I mean, that's not the primary here, because you should be able to sell things for as much as you can sell them for. No problem with that. But in that specific instance, these people have a choice between all the people that are selling water bottles to them, which are not many, because not a lot of people are selling water bottles to them. There's not a lot of resources in that area after the city gets wiped out because of Katrina. And because of that, these people are coming from across the country, from all over. These businessmen are coming there and selling these things to them because there's no real supply there. So they can sell them for a higher price. For one, because then the people who need it the most can get the things. And for two, because there's not that many of the things there. And when there's not that many of the things there, when there's such a low supply of these things, people are gonna have to pay more of them. People are going to have to pay more for the things because yeah. Plus, it's in their self-interest to do so. So there's no problem with this. Oh yeah, Daniel Krauss says, imagine someone coming to a town without water and being denounced because he charges money for it. Yeah, like these people are bringing water to them. These people need water. So then people are coming and bringing it and you're getting mad. Oh, they're charging too much for it. Like, good Lord. You should be able to charge every penny for that because that is an invaluable resource. This is to help these people survive. These individuals who get this water, who are buying this water, value it at $100 a bottle. If they didn't, they wouldn't buy it. If they didn't value it so much, they wouldn't buy it. Now, by artificially lowering the price, you wouldn't get people bringing the water. You wouldn't get people coming from all over the country to bring these water bottles and sell them. Or the people who don't need them as much, the people who are like, oh, I might spend $10 on a water bottle, but not $12. That's too much. They're gonna get it. Instead of the people who are desperate, are like dying of dehydration, and they're willing to spend $100 on a water bottle just to survive. Who would you rather have get that? The person who's like, oh, I might spend a few dollars on it, or the person who desperately needs it? Now, if you artificially lower the price, if you force the prices to get lower, then it's just a race. Whoever can get there faster, whoever's the luckiest in that context. But here's the thing. I want the people who actually need the things to get the things. But there we go. Businessmen are coming all over the country. That's the new socialist talking point. There we go. Businessmen, they're coomers. They're cooming all over this country. Look, we have a porn epidemic here, and businessmen are coming all over this Christian nation.
Are you really meeting people's needs there? Because they might need those $12 also.
If they need the $12, they don't buy the water bottle. You don't need to give out the water bottle for free. Who's going to provide it if you give it out for free? These people should be rewarded for the fact that they're coming and meeting people's needs. They should be rewarded for that.
A business to make things or provide services for others. I speak from personal experience. When I was the CEO of the company that owns Carl's Jr. and Hardee's restaurant chains, we spent millions of dollars every year trying to determine what customers wanted.
This is such a vacuous point. Yes, corporations and businesses make money by designing things people are interested in. No one is arguing against this. This is completely fucking vacuous. Yeah, like how noble. Don't you realize businesses create products for you ingratious swine? Okay.
If our customers didn't like something, we changed it, and fast. Because
it's like we should be thankful for the businesses, obviously. We should be thankful for the fact that these businesses are coming and offering products. Somebody has to invest resources in this. Somebody has to invest their mind organizing this business to meet our needs, and then we can go and just walk over to the store and buy it for $10. We're saving all the labor of going to the subsistence farm and growing all this stuff for ourselves. We're saving all of that labor, all of that time. We just go to the grocery store and buy it because some great entrepreneur, some great man has or great woman as well. I'm not a sexist. I love women. I follow a woman's philosophy. Ayn Rand, the greatest philosopher of all time. Someone organized all the labor, someone organizes all the resources so that you can go to the grocery store and buy some food, or you can go to Hardee's and buy some food, or you can go to Amazon and just click a few buttons and in a few days something will be delivered to your house. Now, normally it's 2 days, now it's like 20 days, but teach their own.
If we didn't, our competitors would, pun intended, eat us for lunch. The consumer, that's you, has the ultimate power. In effect, you vote with every dollar you
vote with your wallets. I don't know. Is this enough of like a libertarian meme that I don't actually need to pay attention? Like, do I actually need to respond to this? Jesus fucking Christ. Vote with your wallets. Yeah. There are no market failings to prevent people from being able to make conscientious and accurate decisions with their dollar. Yeah. There are no processes by which people can be encouraged to make the wrong decision with their money, like, say, through advertising, the multi-hundred fucking billion-dollar a year global industry that exists specifically to help people make decisions that are not in their best interest, to get them to buy the shit they don't need.
Then it's your responsibility to make your own judgments here. You're not just a fucking slave to advertisements. People have an individual mind and they can make their own decisions. And you shouldn't punish these businesses for advertising their company. You should, like, the consumer should be punished for making a bad decision with their money. Make the right decision with your money and we don't have any of these problems. I didn't bring up a specific market failure, so I don't know which one I need to respond to here. The thing about a lot of market failures, there's a lot of problems that could be solved by privatizing things more efficiently, there's instances where they call fraud a market failure, which is an obvious act of force. There's instances where they call pollution a market failure when it can be solved by just privatizing things to solve the tragedy of the commons. Those are the two instances I think of, but if he brings up any other specific market failures, I'll respond to those.
Or buy shit which is suboptimal to the things they do need. That is literally what advertising is, and it is a billion-dollar business. Yeah. Vote with your fucking dollar. Yeah, I sure feel like I'm voting with my fucking wallet when I give money to my one ISP in the area. I sure do feel like I'm fucking...
I mean, if we have one ISP in an area, that means that area is hard to get to. It's hard to provide internet service to. And because of that, we should be thankful to that business that's providing internet to that area, because that area is not going to get much internet otherwise. This business has to come here, set up all this infrastructure, set up all these things, and then you can pay for that. You can pay. You don't have to pay for the internet. If you don't want to pay all that money for the internet, don't pay for the internet then. But obviously you're gonna, because the internet is a very, very valuable thing, and it's worth more than the money that you spend on it. Even in these cases where the ISP spend or costs a bunch of money, it's still worth more than the money that you pay for it. And if it wasn't worth more than the money that you pay for it, if you could spend your money on better things, then you wouldn't buy it. Or you shouldn't buy it. It would be a mistake to buy it in that case as well. And you can't punish producers for the mistakes of consumers. That's an important principle, actually. If a consumer makes a mistake, if the consumer is irrational and does something irrationally, you can't punish the producer for that. You can't punish the person who made the money off of that for their irrationality. It's the fault of the consumer, and reality punishes the consumer accordingly. We can't just subvert reality here and say that, oh, we must force consumers to make the best decisions. And who decides what the best decisions are for consumers anyways? Who decides what your values are? Who decides what things are in your best interest? No one but the individual can do that. No one but the individual can do that. Because a forced value is not a value. There's no such thing as an intrinsic value. There's only values to individual people, only values to individual minds. And there's no such thing as a value that's intrinsic as such. If there's a good quote. Hold up. I was reading Capitalism, the Unknown Ideal, and Rand was making a good point on this front. Yeah, an attempt to achieve the good by force is like an attempt to provide a man with a picture gallery at the price of cutting out his eyes. An individual, to have a value, must make his own individual judgments on a decision. Otherwise, it's not an actual value. A value is objective. It's an interaction between the mind and reality. And if you force it, you're cutting out the mind. You're cutting out the mind from making that decision. And in that sense, it's not a value. It's just like cutting out someone's eyes, someone's ability to appreciate the art, someone's ability, someone's mind, someone's ability to judge a value. You're cutting that off and saying, here's the value, or here's the art gallery. It's terrible. Have you ever read about the tragedy of the commons? I just mentioned it earlier in the video. Yeah, the tragedy of the commons is basically the idea that collective property, people don't have any incentive to upkeep it. People don't have any incentive to make sure that it stays fine. So they're just going to exploit the fuck out of it and then leave it. They're going to take as much as they can, as fast as they can, and then go away. But when you privatize it, then an individual has a incentive to upkeep it and not exploit it and let it go for the long run. But here, let's keep going with this video in particular.
Meaningfully contributing to the discursive marketplace forces that will allow the better ISP to succeed here. Yeah, if I get a fucking hernia and have to be wheeled off to the hospital when I have to pay outrageous fucking fees over there because I don't have insurance and that was the only place the ambulance was going to take me, yeah, I really feel like my dollars were just a vote. They were just a vote I cast. I really feel like I'm participating in a democratic...
I mean, in all these contexts, it's only one producer that's able to provide this certain thing, and you can't just enslave this producer basically and say that their labor must be forced to be used for whatever price society demands, for whatever price that the society feels is right, for whatever price that we all think is the best price.
process, and not an economic arena in which one side of the playing field, the corporations, have infinitely more power, authority, and decision-making ability than any individual does.
Corporations can only gain their power, only gain their economic power through win-win transactions, through voluntary transactions. No one is using any force on anybody in capitalism. There's no force involved. Sure, there's decisions that might be hard to make, or there's decisions that might be difficult because only one person provides service in a certain area. But you still don't have to make that decision. You don't have to have that service.
You know what? If you think...
Nobody is forcing you at gunpoint to indulge in a certain service. Nobody is doing so.
Individuals are the ones who control the businesses. Why don't you just become a fucking individual, Mr. Dennis Prager? Stop with your corporate horse shit. Stop. Why live a life where you are beholden to the needs of us ungrateful masses? Why not just become one of the masses yourself? Apparently it's pretty fucking great down here.
You spend. In a socialist economy, the government has the ultimate power.
Okay, no, I can't respond to this because this dude has literally no fucking idea what socialism is. So none of the criticisms that he's going to levy at socialism are going to mean anything.
So Vaush doesn't believe that socialism is a government thing. It doesn't require the government, which is obviously delusional. If you're gonna have a collective, but whatever, we can save that. But basically, socialism in general is the idea that the means of production should be collectivized in some form or another. Now, the tankies, the socialists who believe in government, think that the government has to structure this, has to organize it. Now, people like Vaush, they believe that the workers will own co-ops and they'll vote in the best sort of things and all these sort of things. However, how can we achieve these worker co-ops? How do we achieve them from the beginning? Usually when a business is formed, it's an individual coming up with an idea and creating the business. And then hiring workers because of that, in win-win transactions, obviously. Because if you're not offering them a high enough wage, they're not going to come work for you. So, the businessman creates a business. Now let's say they want to collectivize it. They want to make it a co-op. Well, then you have to use force to force the businessman to concede power and let all these workers run the business. Now, here's the thing: a lot of the time, the workers, they don't know how to run a business. They don't know how to do all these things that, like organizing labor, organizing resources in a certain way. That's the job of the entrepreneurs. The entrepreneur, he comes in, creates a business, organizes all the labor, organizes all the resources, and is profitable because of that. Just doing labor is absolutely meaningless apart from some direction to that labor, with someone providing you tools, with someone providing you a direction for it. Now, not everyone can do that, and the entrepreneurs are the people that can do that. They're the people that can create a business, and the laborers are the people who don't want to do that. They're too lazy, or not. I shouldn't say lazy, because it's not a bad thing to be a worker. It's not a negative thing to be a worker. Not everybody is the exact same intelligence-wise. That's just a fact. I'm sorry. It sounds patronizing, obviously, but some people, like, you guys agree that not everybody can create a business. when I bring up this point with socialists, when I'm talking about the idea of taxation being theft, and they bring up the whole labor is theft thing, I say, well, and why can't people just create a business? People have the ability and have the right to create a business. It's possible to do. Well, then socialists always say, well, not everybody's just going to create a business. Not everybody can do that. Businesses are like, not everyone's business is going to be successful. Well, then certain people, these entrepreneurs, these great men, the atlases of society, they can organize the labor, organize the resources, and create a business. Now we can collectivize this business and have them sort of be at the whims of society, at the mercy of society's whims. But that's a problem, because innovations, new things, unique ideas come from individuals. That's just how it works. If the non-status quo ideas that change the world, that change an entire society, they're not status quo. They come from individual people. They don't come from collective people voting on what the best thing to do is. The USSR would just, most of the time, would just copy the industrialization of the capitalist economies. That's how, like, a common point that people like to make is that, the industrial revolution happened in statist societies as well, like Japan, USSR, all these things. Yeah, these things were forced, but they were largely copied from the capitalist societies. They would see that, they produce this thing, so let's follow and produce that. It wasn't individuals coming up with new ideas and creating new things. It was just repeating repeating things in the past, repeating things that happened before. Now in America, what happened with that? What actually happened with that was it came at the cost of people's individual rights. People were forced to do certain things. People weren't allowed to use their own individual minds to produce their own things. But in a capitalist economy, people use their own individual minds to create non-status quo things, new innovations, new things that a collective is not going to come up with. A group of people is not going to work together and come up with. So these people, they create these non-status quo ideas and they implement them. They need at least one other person who might invest in them, or they have enough wealth themselves. So they can go and create this business. And after they create this business, they can hire laborers, they can do all that sort of stuff. And if it's successful, if it does provide value to people, people are going to, if it provides value to people, people are going to buy those things. Oh yeah, Daniel Krauss says it's not about IQ. I agree, it's not about IQ. I was not trying to imply that at all. But certain people, Like you would agree that in Atlas Shrugged, there's a difference between someone like John Galt and Eddie Willers. It's not inherent in a person, but as you grow up, like, certain people develop better epistemological methods due to the ideas that are inherent on them, or not inherent, that the ideas that they choose as they grow up. And because of that, some people will have better ideas than others. Some people will have better ability to put those things into action than other people. Yeah, it's not like at birth, obviously everyone's a blank slate. There's no inherent ability to people, but as they grow up, the ideas that they have will have an influence on what they do in the future. So I'm not, when I was saying that workers, they're not always able to do the same thing that an entrepreneur can do. It's not to say that workers are inherently dumb. There's this inherent distinction between working class people and entrepreneurs. There is a distinction. There's people that are smarter than other people. I would say the entrepreneurs are smarter than the workers for the most part, because the workers, they do the labor. They don't organize the labor. They don't direct the labor to anything. They're told what to do by the entrepreneurs, by the capitalist class people, I guess is a possible term for that, by the productive people, or the people who organize the labor, the entrepreneurs. So those people create the jobs, give them the jobs, and collectivizing it will only hamper the ability to properly organize based on this. Sure. Oh yeah, certainly a worker at McDonald's is capable of starting their own franchise union. Yeah, you can like I don't want to get super hung out up on this whole like workers thing. Certainly anybody is capable of making something, but not everybody does. Not everybody does the intelligent things. Certainly everyone is capable of being intelligent, obviously. But not everybody does that.
anything. He might as well have opened up with, in a socialist economy, the government can rape your daughters. In capitalism, we recognize the free right everyone has to personal autonomy. Remember, your rights end where my rights begin. But in socialism, daughter raping is an essential component. No, there's no, I can't respond to it. There's nothing to respond to. Let's have fun.
It decides what you get from a limited supply. It decides should exist.
No, not true.
Instead of millions of people making millions of decisions about what they want, a few people, government elites, decide what people should have and how much they should pay for it.
Wait, don't
Okay, so it's either the government elites, which are elected by the majority, or it's the majority of people. It's society influencing its will on the producers. So that's the sort of thing Vaush would advocate. Now, it's different. There's a distinction between what Vaush advocates, like the collective, the majority voting and deciding what businesses should do, and specific people at the top, like Stalin or like a dictator, like telling people, no, you must produce this thing directly. But in both instances, it requires some structure enforcing its will on an individual person, and that's the biggest problem that I have with it.
Corporations do this. In both cases, you have two. For one, even in the straw man he's building, these are the corporations. The corporations decide what they want to give and how much you should pay for it. You can hem and haw about how the votes of the consumer determine this, but fuck it. In socialism, even in the straw man of socialism, these people would be voted in by the masses. These people are more accountable to the will of the masses than any corporation is to the
No, just because 51% of people choose a specific person, most of the time because it's the lesser of two evils, doesn't mean that government elite represents the will of the people. What better to represent the will of the people? Like, economic power can only exist because of voluntary trade. Profit can only exist because of voluntary trade, because of win-win transactions. Like, this is very, very easy stuff.
Interests of their constituents, and yet we strawman this as being anti-democratic and anti-individual and da-di-da-di-da, when in reality, corporations are literally this. This is what corporations are and do. Capitalism is so fragile, it can't even hold up to a straw man of socialism.
Not surprisingly, they all...
Wait, what happened to my mic? Is it off? Hold up, let me check my mic. Oh, we should be good. Hold up. Oh, never mind. We're good. All right.
always get it wrong.
Wow.
Have you ever noticed that late-stage socialist failures always run out of essential items like toilet paper?
There has never been a late-stage socialist economy. That thing has literally never existed in humanity's history.
Of course, this isn't a problem for those who have the right connections with the right...
So the issue is these people, like, you have to have eventually some dictator who's going to enforce or say what the will of society is. You have to eventually have that. There has to be some arbiter of the general will of society. There has to be someone deciding where the social surplus, quote unquote, goes. If you believe that in the social surplus, if you believe that that wealth belongs to society, if wealth belongs to society, and the job is just the job of government or the job of people is just to figure out what the right way to divvy it up is. If you believe that, there's going to be someone who rises up with that power, who embodies the will of the people and says, okay, we're going to divide it like this. And there has to be some sort of enforcement of this as well. There has to be some sort of force required. These Vaush types that are like obsessed with like libertarian socialism, they completely evade the fact that somehow you have to use force on the... Maybe he doesn't evade that. Maybe he doesn't evade that specifically. But somewhere you have to use force on the business owners to get them to rescind their rights to choosing what to do with their wealth, to what to do with their money. And you have to somehow get this money to distribute it socially. You have to somehow obtain the social surplus from people. And that requires a lot of force. And that's why in all of these countries, all these socialist countries, we see problems that arise with it. We see a lot of force, a lot of brutality, a lot of starvation as well, because who is better to decide what is in my interest than me? Who's better to decide my values than me? Nobody can force values upon me.
Right people. Those chosen few get whatever they want, but everyone else is out of luck.
Notice, by the way, how they can't help but appropriate the language of leftists. They always do this. Fucking Hitler with the National Socialist.
Hold up. How do you know there's no causal link between murder and ice cream sales? I don't know, man. There's certainly a correlation, apparently. If there is, actually. I actually don't know.
Appropriate the language of leftists. They always...
Venice.
Notice, by the way, how they can't help but appropriate the language of leftists. They always do this. Fucking Hitler with the National Socialism. Fucking the PragerU channels talking about how Hitler wasn't a nationalist, but he was a socialist. Them talking about identity politics and how they're identitarians now, rather than just, regular old racists and white supremacists.
Oh god, identitarians are fucking cringe. I fucking hate identitarians. Holy crap. That's why I hate right-wingers so much. Like, honestly, I prefer Vaush to people like Nick Fuentes. Holy shit. Because at least Vaush pretends to be, like, in favor of people's liberty. Like, at least that's a value that Vaush holds. At least Vaush holds that people should be able to, like, try to live their own happy lives, when people like Nick Fuentes are like, no, you have to just sacrifice constantly to God or to society. It's like, good lord, holy shit. Like, that people literally can't choose their individual values. People can't watch porn on their own, or like those sort of things. Like, the question of whether porn is moral or not, iffy question. I go back and forth on that question personally. But should it be enforced? Should people be forced to take those, to say that porn is not a value? I don't know, man. I don't know. It doesn't seem very individualistic to me. At least Vaush is somewhat individualistic.
And now this late-stage socialism. Does he even fucking know what that means? Late-stage socialism? Tell me, what material conditions exactly are we describing when we describe a late-stage socialist society? They won't say it, because they don't know, because it's not a real thing. It's not real. It's just saying...
Late-stage socialist societies aren't real. You're right. It's all a fucking fantasy. Because socialism, communism, all these societies, they're just going to destroy wealth. Wealth has to be produced by wealth is produced by entrepreneurs individually setting their values and deciding things. When you suppress the ability for individuals to set their own values, you don't gain wealth. A society doesn't gain wealth. There's this weird fantasy that socialists have that we're going to industrialize. The country is going to be industrialized. We're going to gain these higher material conditions, and then the state's just going to wither away. No mention of how they're going to obtain them. No mention of how the state's going to wither away. No mention of how they're going to do all these certain things. It's just going to happen. Somehow we're going to have to gain more material, gain better material conditions, and then it'll be all good.
Words that sound a little bit like the more authoritative leftist words, the best words that we like to employ.
Venezuela, once the richest country in South America,
wow,
is the most recent example of socialism driving a prosperous country into an economic ditch.
Wait, let me guess. He's going to say the US did it. US did it. That's going to be the explanation.
For one, not socialism. For two, yeah, it turns out a US embargo will do a lot to fuck with your economy, huh? Wow.
Now, maybe
Incredible.
You think it's an unfair
Amazing.
Example. I'm not sure why, but okay. We'll ignore the fact that leftist activists celebrated it as a great socialist success right up until it wasn't.
They didn't. That didn't happen. People have always been tentative about Maduro's regime in Venezuela.
The Venezuela argument's not one that I'm super interested in. It's kind of like the idea of just pointing at states. It's like, okay, like this is obviously not the system they're advocating, whatever. Like you don't point to states that are like not something that these people like prop up and say it's a good state and point out problems with it. Like we don't point to people like fucking Venezuela and say, oh, Venezuela's fucking terrible, therefore socialism's bad. Nobody advocates that state, so I don't like it when people advocate or talk about Venezuela.
We've been
It's fucking cringe.
cautiously optimistic about its ability to resist the embargo imposed on it by America and other nations, and to succeed in spite of the many economic challenges it has faced. But I have never once seen people proclaiming Venezuela has been a great socialist success. I have never seen this. Not in my life. Not once. And I talked to a lot of leftist people. I talked to some of the best leftists.
Okay, Mike Bryan in the chat said, I mean that uncoordinated individual decisions do not necessarily benefit humanity. Who cares if it benefits humanity? Really, what humanity is a collection of individuals who set their own values. To have societal values dictated by you or by society is not the standard of how we judge values. You can't have values apart from individual judgment. Individuals need to be free to make their own judgments about what benefits them.
But what about Western European countries?
What about
Don't
it?
they have socialist economies?
Nope, they don't. No,
People
they don't.
seem pretty happy there.
They don't.
Why can't we have what they have?
Social
Free health care,
democracies.
free college,
Social
stronger unions. Good question. And the answer may surprise you. There are no socialist countries in Western Europe.
Wow.
Most are just as capitalist as the United States. The
Wow.
only difference, and it's a big one, is that they offer more government benefits than the U.S. does.
This is why I do not like it when people casually describe fucking Scandinavian countries, the Nordic countries, Norway and Sweden, what have you, as socialist. They're like, oh yeah, the socialist countries. Well, I know they're not really socialism. For one, it's not accurate. They're not socialist. The workers don't democratically control the means of production. Okay? So we got...
Agreed, they're not socialist. Thank you. I agree with this categorization here. That's nice.
Got that out of the way. For two, it means dipshit, fucking baldy, four-eyed libcucks like this piece of shit chud motherfucker can then go on stage at Prager University, at the Prager University auditorium, and say, hey, you know all these socialist countries you like? They're actually capitalist. Everything good is capitalist. Ignoring the fact that the reason why people like these countries is because of their social spending and social democracy, which chuds like this fuckhead will then do everything in their power to prevent the propagation of. You
can look up Yaron Brooks talks about Scandinavian countries, but if you look historically, these countries were some of the freest in the world, and they became a lot very wealthy, some of the wealthiest countries in the world. And using that wealth, they became socialist. They became very socialist. They had some economic collapses in like the 90s. And then since then, they've been freeing up their economy more and more and more. That's a very, very broad overview. Look into the actual history for yourself if you want to learn more. I just gave a very broad explanation here. But in general, like Scandinavian countries have been becoming more capitalist in recent years, and in general, from what I've seen a chart of GDP versus government spending, GDP versus government spending, and that's been decreasing since like the 90s, since their economic collapse, which I also was doing a little research on earlier and saw that that's actually a thing. There's some 90s collapse or 80s collapse in the economies of Scandinavian countries like Sweden. But these countries were generally some of the freest in the world when they became prosperous countries. And using that wealth, they were able to like do certain things. But what happened was that wealth got destroyed over time by the usage of it, by the usage of the wealth on like social programs and these things. And also, these Scandinavian countries are some of the least regulated in the world. And I think regulation is way more important. Deregulation is way more important than like lower taxes and lower spending. Obviously, those are important as well. To lower taxes and lower spending are important, but regulation I think is more important in my opinion.
This country, he's wrong at every conceivable level. It's an attack from every angle. Incorrectness, falsity, fallaciousness coming at me from every direction like needles in a fucking pincushion.
We can argue about the cost of these benefits and the point at which they reduce individual initiative, thus doing more harm than good. Scandinavians have been debating those questions for years, but only a free...
Funny how every attempt at socialism gets jackbooted out of existence. Are you a chud or a chad? I was about to insult you, but then I realized that statement could be contextualized by a leftist, so... Are you a chud or a chad?
Free market capitalist economy can produce the wealth necessary to sustain all of the supposedly free stuff Europeans enjoy.
Facts. Socialism can only be built off of the production of capitalism. Can only be built off of that. And Marx knows it too. Socialism, in the whole like feudalism, capitalism, socialism comes after the economic boom, the production boom that comes from capitalism.
Citation needed. There is absolutely no evidence.
What about the Scandinavian countries like Sweden that became very, very, very prosperous after capitalism for most of their history, and then they began doing some free stuff, began giving out some handouts, some spending, all that sort of stuff, and their economy collapsed. And now they've been freeing up a little bit, which has been beneficial.
To suggest that. Gotcha. Thank you, Barbinger.
To get the free stuff, after all, you have to create enough wealth to generate enough tax revenue to pay for everything the government gives away.
Or, wait for it, what about we take advantage of the trillions of dollars that get hoarded offshore by businesses and we raise taxes and I don't know, what if we
see this all of this sort of let me let her finish.
Pouring billions of dollars into sectors of the economy that don't affect the well-being of anyone besides a very, very small elite few? What if it turns out, and this is completely factually correct, by the way, that there is enough wealth in this country, in the United States of America, right now at this moment, to adequately sustain a middle-class lifestyle for every single person in here? Undocumented immigrant? Yes. Homeless person? Yes. Cisgender straight white male? Yes. Donald Trump? No. Get him out of here. But everyone else? Yes. We can do it.
But what would happen if we do it? Also, well, or yeah, let's I have 2 points I want to make. Let me hope I can remember to get around to it. But what would happen if we did that? We'd be taking money from the most productive people, the people that have created the great atlases holding society on their back. We'd be taking money from them that they could have reinvested in their businesses, provided even better stuff for us, even more innovation, even more production, even more good stuff that we can go buy for that will raise our standard of living massively and improve our lives drastically. That's what would happen if we took their money, distributed it among everyone. People would buy their consumer goods, but there would be no more production. There would be no more long-term growth. It'd just be people going to the store, buying some stuff, and then we'd run out, which is what always happens when an economy is collectivized. Because what happens to the producers? The producers lose the capital. The production loses everything that is necessary for it to survive, for it to continue producing things, for it to continue developing and innovating and producing and prospering. And this fundamentally comes from a view of the economy as this sort of social surplus of the wealth in the economy as a social surplus rather than the surplus created by individuals from win-win transactions, from voluntary trade with other individuals in a society. The wealth does not belong to society. It's not this pie that we must distribute to among people in the most equal and fair way possible, where we decide like, oh, your value to this economy is, let's say maybe $1 or $2 an hour, but your value is $3,000 to this economy, and I'm gonna decide what your value is. Let's let individuals decide what their value is by whatever win-win transactions they make in the economy. And then I was gonna make a second point. I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh no, wait, that was the second point. The social surplus thing. I mean, this is a very cliche and common argument, but you can make more pie. You can make that's the thing about capitalism. It's not a zero-sum game. Individuals produce more when they have more money. When these producers have money, they reinvest, produce more, create more innovation, more prosperity, more all this good stuff.
Let's keep going. We have the power. This myth that capitalism is the only machine by which enough wealth can be generated to sustain this kind of human happiness is broadly false and extremely easy to disprove. What exactly about a democratic seizure of the means of production and communally owned workplaces would prevent this country, with its massive pool of labor, its wealth, its natural resources, the ingenuity and hard work of its constituents, from producing wealth necessary to sustain this nation?
Because you're stifling the minds who produce this wealth. You're stifling the minds and the minds who organize this labor, the minds who organize these resources to produce this wealth. And you're sacrificing it to the collective of workers who don't necessarily know how this was done. They got told what to do. They don't know what to produce. They don't know how specifically to use their labor. So they go get this job, and the capitalist tells them, or the entrepreneur tells them, do this, and then I'll pay you for this. They say, okay, this is going to improving my life over what it could have been. So I'll do it. And then because of that, they get rewarded handsomely because of the win-win trades that they make. And all of this is due to the fact that we leave that individual mind free to produce, without a worker co-op voting on all of his decisions and telling him what to do, because those type of businesses fail. Now, those are actually possible in a capitalist system. If you want to create a worker co-op, go ahead and do it. There's nothing stopping anybody from doing it. But the issue is people just don't do it, because unique ideas, unique status quo challenging, innovative ideas come from individuals, come from individual minds. There's no collective that gets together and comes up with some new idea. It's usually individual minds. Now, there are collective co-ops that exist, and there's nothing stopping them from existing. But the issue is that's not usually how ideas are come up with. That's not how society gets organized. I mean, this is just a fact of reality. People are individuals.
Absolutely nothing. There was nothing. There's absolutely nothing. But I don't even know why I'm saying this, because anyone who watches me through a fucking PragerU recommendation on this YouTube video I will inevitably make doesn't understand what socialism is. So there's no.
Well, it requires the issue with like forced co-ops, which is basically what he's arguing for. He's not arguing for like just freeing up the economy to allow for more co-ops, unless that is what he's arguing, and I completely misinterpreted Vaush, and he's actually a capitalist. But I'm pretty sure that's not what he's arguing. This forced worker co-op thing, it suppresses the individual mind that produced these things, that is the most productive person, that does know best how to organize these resources. And because of that, suppressing that to the collective will is going to lead to less production, going to lead to less productivity.
Point, like they just think it's the government doing stuff.
Without capitalism, you're Venezuela.
Venezuela. Did you hear how he pronounced that? What?
Gives away. Without capitalism, you're Venezuela.
Amazing.
In a 2015 speech at Harvard, Denmark's prime minister took great pains to make this point. I know that some people in the U.S. associate the Nordic model with socialism. Therefore, I would like to make one thing clear. Denmark is far from a socialist planned economy. Denmark is a market economy.
Well, for one, this person is correct. For two, Denmark is a market economy. This stands in juxtaposition to one part of his statement, that Denmark is a planned economy. Planned economies and market economies are incompatible.
Wait, he said it's not a planned economy.
And socialist economies are quite compatible. It's called market socialism. It's called anarcho-syndicalism.
Oh.
Markets can still exist outside of a capitalist society. Markets have existed for as long as humans have. There's nothing wrong with markets. They're a good way of assuring the right things go to the right people. All capitalism does is tell you who gets paid for it.
Capitalism just lets the individual get paid as people wish to consume their products. Like, this is so absurd. Capitalism just leaves people free to use their own minds to produce what they want and decide to buy what they want as well. Now, when it's a socialist plan or sort of planned economy, I guess he has some weird anarchist definition, which, I mean, I don't understand very well. I'm gonna be honest, but either way, you're still suppressing someone's individual decision based on the collective, based on society's whims. And that, as I've explained multiple times, that is a major problem.
Economy. So when you point to Denmark as a paragon of socialism, you're really singing the praises of capitalism.
Wow.
The more capitalism, the less socialism you need.
That's how it
Look at
works.
America since 2017.
Wow. That's how it works. That's how politics works.
Capitalism,
Wow,
the less
this is
socialism
it.
you need.
This is political economy. When you pour juice into the capitalism jug, the socialism jug goes down because it evaporates. It's a thermodynamic law. Wow, thank you.
Look at America since 2017. A policy of low
What's the x-axis mean? What's the y-axis mean? What the fuck is this?
taxes and less
Wow.
government regulation. That's more capital.
Thank you, Trump. The economy has gone up threefold thanks to his lessened government regulation and taxes. I mean, taxes on my parents went up. I hear taxes went down on the uber rich. That's pretty cool.
The thing about the tax bill is I don't actually know what fucking happened in it. Like, are people's taxes going up or down? Like, all the Republicans say everyone's taxes went down, and then all the Democrats say, oh no, but everyone's taxes actually went up. Except obviously everyone agrees that the rich's taxes went down, which is good. I like lower taxes for people. But do I actually agree with the bill? Does the majority of people's taxes go up or down under Trump's tax bill? I'm not sure which side to believe here. Everyone tells me contradicting things. Both things can't be true at once. Do middle class... Oh, wait. Does the middle class tax rate go up under Trump's tax bill? I actually have no fucking clue. Explaining Trump's tax reform plan. In 2019, many taxpayers were surprised to find that they have to pay more taxes than the previous year, while others received significantly lower refund taxes, even though their financial circumstances didn't change. Okay, so according to Investopedia, it seems like Trump's tax bill was not very good. It didn't actually lower taxes, so not a fan of it. There we go.
Wow, let's watch it again.
Oh yeah, and Daniel Krause's government spending went up too, so yeah, government spending has been going up, so... Plus, lower taxes with increased government spending is not very good. It leads to a crowding out effect as the government has to borrow more money from the economy to pay for things, which disincentivizes investment, which is even worse than disincentivizing consumption through higher taxes.
A policy of lower taxes and less government regulation.
Wow!
And that's more capitalism. Has led
These graphs are fucking cringe, though. Economy goes up. Amazing.
to a robust economic expansion.
See, this is the problem with fucking PragerU, bro. Like, these are fucking advocates. There we go. I think my mic's working again. All right. What did we miss? Mike at 12:11. All right. So I was talking about books that you should read. If you want to read some good economics books for better advocates of capitalism, even than myself, even than fucking Oh shit! I was looking back at my bookshelf. All right. If you want some advocates that of capitalism that are even better than myself, even better than fucking PragerU, who's a terrible advocate of capitalism, look at Capitalism: The Unknown Ideal by Ayn Rand. or Return of the Primitive, or Atlas fucking Shrugged. Good shit. There we go. All right. And then I also mentioned Human Action. That's a good book. Human Action. By Ludwig von Mises. That's a good book. And then Economics in One Lesson. This is probably better than Human Action, I would argue. There we go. Good shit. Is it still working? Still working? Okay, my mic is good. Let's go. Let me know again if my mic ever cuts off. I'll probably edit that out when I upload the stream clip later. Hopefully. I might forget though. We'll see. We'll see how bad it is. If it's only like 10 seconds, I won't cut it out. But let's keep going.
Something thought impossible just a few years earlier. Unemployment, notably among minority groups, typically most...
Oh, we gotta bring in the blacks and the wombs. We gotta bring in the blacks and the femoids. That's how you know they're repping with the progressives right now. Hey, idiot lefty, you want socialism? Huh. Didn't you know that capitalism is doing better for the blacks and pussy people with the boobies? Did you know that? I bet you didn't.
At risk for poverty is at a generational low. Economic expansion gets people off welfare and into work.
Wow, yes, welfare is bad. Supply side economics haven't been disproven over and over again every year, every decade, in every fucking example, in every presidential administration since the 1960s. Incredible. Amazing.
We haven't had a very capitalistic... I mean, I guess Reagan wasn't... Nah, Reagan was fucking bad. Reagan did the whole thing that I was talking about earlier with the whole cutting taxes without cutting spending and crowding out all the problems that come with that. But supply-side economics isn't that bad, unless you're talking about Reaganomics, if that's what you mean. But I love Austrian economics, so... Reagan wasn't that good either, but a lot of history, most of history has been people raising spending and usually raising taxes, but in general, more or less raising the government's intervention in the economy.
I'm actually gonna lose it from this video. This video is actually especially dumb for a Prager University video.
That's less socialism.
Wow.
None of this requires...
Wait, that's less socialism? So welfare has to do... So less welfare means less socialism? So welfare is socialism then, right? So does that mean Norway and Sweden and fucking the other Scandinavian countries are also socialist? This video contradicts its own point. This is amazing! Incredible!
I mean, welfare is an aspect of socialism, my dude.
How do you make so many wrong points and then still manage to contradict two separate wrong points? The only correct thing he said this entire time is that fucking Denmark and shit aren't socialist. And then he goes around and says they're socialist because welfare is an indicator of socialism. It's incredible.
To work, that's less socialism.
Wow.
None of this requires a degree in economics.
Evidently not. No, it very clearly doesn't, my friend. The things you have said do not belie a substantial academic understanding of the subject. Let us move on.
Common sense is all you need. That's why it's so
common sense conservatism.
Frustrating to see young people...
Why is this guy unbuttoning the top button of his suit jacket? Does this not fit him properly?
Oof.
Isn't this guy a multi-millionaire? You're supposed to unbutton the bottom button. I guess you can unbutton the top button if you're a fucking loser. I don't know. I guess I've seen some people do that.
Praising socialism and criticizing capitalism.
Amazing.
It's been...
No, you definitely button the top button. Why the fuck would you... That I didn't actually notice that. But hey, good point, Vaush. Good point.
Bad enough that they're working against their own interest. Better job prospects, better wages, personal freedom. But they're also working against the interest of the less fortunate. Capitalism leads to economic democracy.
We care about the poor's too. Also, capitalism is definitely not fundamentally antithetical.
Oh shit! Look in the chat. Look in his chat. Someone said Ayn Rand. Look at that. Look at that. Amazing.
Democracy, where corporations use their money to leverage power and buy interest in the elected representative leaders. and use it to enforce their will on the economy. Corporations definitely don't just write out bills and then present them to lawmakers to sign.
Ooh, that's a problem. I would agree with that. I'd agree with that. That's a problem. And the problem there is that the government has so much power over the economy. If the government didn't have the ability to do a lot of these things in the economy, there'd be no reason for these businessmen to go to the government and say, oh, hey, could you see my competition over there? I see that you have the power to like regulate them or to impose some regulations that get them out of business. Could you like do that for me? I'll slip you a few dollars. I'll slip you like $1 million check maybe if you do that. And that the problem there is the fact that the government has the ability to do these things. If there was a strict separation of economics and state in the same way and for the same reasons as the separation of church and state, this wouldn't happen. Corruption would be a non-issue if this government didn't have the power to do these sort of things. But let's keep on moving. And also, regulation hurts the small businesses in favor of the big businesses, because the big businesses can handle all these regulations, because they, unlike the small businesses, are big. They have a lot more wealth, and they can deal with these regulations.
This doesn't happen. Capitalism is freedom. All right.
Socialism leads to the economic dictatorship of the elite.
Wow.
Always.
Wait, the economic dictatorship of the elite, like over them or propagated by them? Okay. I mean, capitalism does too. I don't know. I don't feel very democratic when my fucking internet.
I mean, when the capitalists, when the big business owners have the ability to use the gun of the government, use the force of the government to suppress their competition and to suppress their or oppress their will on the people, well, then that's a problem. I'd agree with that, and that's why we should get the government out of the economy.
Internet bill goes up from $70 a month to $85 a month, and I look at why, and their statement on it is basically, we felt we should charge more for this service, and it's still like 1/80th of what it would be over in South Korea or in Japan or some shit, because they actually have like decent internet, but ours just costs a fuck ton because our businesses really like money, I guess.
And everywhere. So beware what you ask for. You just might get it.
Wow.
I'm Andy.
Oh, I love this whole like internet ISP thing. Like, remember when that was such a big deal and the people were fucking talking about net neutrality constantly? Like, whatever happened to that? Did net neutrality, when net neutrality got abolished, ever since then, like, the internet's been pretty fine. Nobody's been talking about it since. Were the net neutrality advocates wrong on something? But they just, I guess we all forgot about it, like we were all expecting. If you remember back in the days when Rucka was talking about net neutrality all the time, it's like these people they're not going to remember in a few years, and those few years have gone by. And where are the people talking about how bad the internet is? Where are the people talking about how the absence of net neutrality is destroying the fucking internet? Like, the internet got built without net neutrality. That's when the internet was innovating and creating all the things. And let us keep on going.
Puzzler, the author of The Capitalist Comeback for Prager University.
Cool, great. This video was made possible by a generous donation. Absolutely. There were everything in this, the production value demonstrated in this video from this multi-million-dollar propaganda network could have only existed with a generous donation. Imagine donating to PragerU. Imagine donating to this.
For real, I agree with this. Imagine fucking donating to PragerU. I don't agree with the whole like weird billionaire thing and whatever. I don't really give a fuck. Like, billionaires have the right to advocate for their interests. If they see a company or a people fucking talking about socialism and collectivizing the means of production and those things, like, they every right to go and donate to or companies that are or organizations that are going to defend capitalism. Every right to do so. Kirk Wilcox says, I feel like that was the only person arguing against net neutrality. Conservatives hopped on the bandwagon like 1 week before it was repealed. Oh yeah, but what up, Kirk? Though, how you doing, man? But yeah, the net neutrality thing was fucking annoying. Like, the objectivists were the only group of people that felt like that was arguing against net neutrality. I remember, like, at school, I would constantly get in arguments with people about net neutrality. And people had no idea what was going on. I understood it a lot better back then. I could have probably explained the issue a lot better back then, because now I haven't thought about it for a while, but, like, I'd get in so many arguments with people. I would fucking destroy them. Fucking wreck the libtards. Hell yeah. That's fucking cringe. Please don't. Please pretend like that's not true. Please pretend like I never said that. Please pretend like I never said the wreck the libtards.
Funded fucking multi-million-dollar propaganda network that has distribution across ads all across YouTube, gets seen by millions of people, and thinking, yes, I want them to have more of my money. Oh, fucking nation! All right. How fun has this been?
Oh, man. I fucking hate PragerU, but Vaush is even worse. Vaush is terrible.